So I had a question. This is actually from a fellow attorney. Sean's an attorney in Washington State. So, what about courts using coercive power to force people to use a collaborative process to address at least some issues? So, I think coercive probably a little strong on the language, but like, what would your thoughts be on its face? I'm like, this may work. What are your thoughts on? Do you think the collaborative process is something that maybe it could be worked in where you're going through litigation and the judge can say, no, you two need to go work outside of the courts to solve this specific issue?
Two things there. One, please note, if you are in litigation and you can talk to the other person or have somebody reasonably talk to the other person and you decide you want to go to collaborative, you can file what is called a collaborative stay, and you can stay all time frames of litigation and then go to collaborative and try it. And if it works, then you dismiss the case and file your collaborative agreement. If you want to file it in court, if you want to keep it as a contract, you finalize the case. Your attorney can tell you how that'll happen in your state. But do know that in a lot of states that have collaborative statutes, they have an ability for you, if you are in litigation, to stay litigation, go to collaborative. So a lot of things that judges do, the more they know about collaborative, the more they are asking clients. A lot of judges give their own spiel now before they actually have a hearing, and they'll say, this is your last opportunity. If you are considering at all collaborative mediation, please let us know right now. We can file a stay. We can do this. We can do that. So some judges are doing that. It is my hope that that continues to happen, that there's more and more and more awareness, and that people are able to understand and they're able to give that push towards helping people to understand. But what I want everybody to know is I don't think the courts need to reform. I think people need to reform. I think that people elect to go to court to have people make decisions over their kids. I think you need to realize that this is America and you can make those decisions yourself because we have contract law. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is, in most states, you can have a contract. Now, the court's always going to have the welfare of the children as one, or the state, each state is going to have the welfare of the children under its state as one of its powers. So you can go to the court and have them make a determination, but that does not mean that you have to. It does not mean that you have to. You know what I'm saying? Like, people need to understand you walk willingly into that. No one is coming after you. Now, if you're being sued, obviously you're not walking willingly, but if you are deciding to go file a lawsuit, please think if you are doing that because you are electing to make that decision. In almost all states in the United States of America, you do not have to go to court. Please look into that and know your rights.
Okay, so there is in North Carolina. There's a mechanism where you can go down the road of litigation and decide, oh, it's a mistake, and actually back out into the collaborative process.
Right. And so you can come into what's called a consent order and you can file that, or you can have a contract outside of court. So if you feel better to have a court order that's enforced with the powers of the court, you can do that. If you prefer to have a confidential contract, you can do that. And so, and that's in the state of North Carolina, obviously. But I do just want people to understand that I don't necessarily think that we need to focus on trying to reroute the court system. The court system is designed to deal with high conflict, with people who cannot make a decision and who cannot understand. What we need to do is provide awareness so that people understand that they have all these other options before they have to go to court. And if they'll just try those options, naturally, court will realign itself because it will naturally only be handling the cases that it needs to handle. And instead, all of the people will be choosing the things that they need to do before having to deal with court. Does that make sense? Like, this is a reform of society, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily a reform of the court system.
Yeah, and I'm taking it as someone who's kind of in the system every day. We see the younger like I said earlier, the younger the client, the more progressive in their thought process. Typically, if I have someone who's under the age of 25, it's usually a mom, a dad, an aunt, a grandma, or someone who gets in the way of some form of agreement. So it kind of sounds like we're probably on the same page on this.
Yes,
My opinion is that we're probably 2 generations away. Our
100%.
grandchildren will not view divorce the same way. They will think we were in our professions were crazy.
Yes. That is
So
happening right now. Yes.
yeah, and I said like it's gonna take because like I
Yeah.
said, I see most of the time what gets in the way is an auntie, a grandma, a mom. It usually is the female even to the male client, to the male or the female involved. It's usually one of their female influences that kind of sticks their nose in and says, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. Make the judge make a decision.
Unfortunately, that's a lot. I counsel my clients a lot on restricting who they receive advice from, because this is an individual experience. It is not a group experience. It's not a group project. Getting divorced is not a group project. Please hear me. Getting divorced is not a group project. It is not you and all your besties.
One person who has no connection to the other party, and you tell them, I'm going to spill the beans to you, or you go find a therapist. I say, yes. Find a therapist. If you refuse to do that, you're going to go to one person, not a mutual friend, not someone who talks to them regularly. You're going to go to that one person, and you're going to say, through this process, for my own sanity, I'm going to need to just spill the beans to you.
I think that it's just important to realize that this is a journey. And if you're making a decision to get divorced, or you're dealing with it, because not everybody's getting divorced, you could just be dealing with a child custody issue. But if you're dealing with that, then what you're hoping for is on the other side of this, I'm going to have this new space that's going to be more positive, more peaceful, more happy. You know, focus on that. If that is what you're trying to achieve, going into battle with someone, spewing all this negative energy onto someone or some situation is not going to help you get there. And I understand you may not have gotten yourself into litigation. Someone else may have sued you. That still means, though, you can control your own reaction to it and your own behavior about it and your own attitude about it. If you understand that it's a system and it is what it is, and we're trying to reform it, and it's a little broken right now, and you didn't want to be there, but you found yourself there. If you try to have those mental thought processes instead of everybody's out to get me, I understand it feels that way, and in some cases that might be the case, but you have to keep your own air about it clean, because that your children are picking up on it, and it's important to keep it together for them. You can have time and space, and some person, like you said, a therapist, a friend, one person who truly has your best interests at heart to be able to speak to, but just be very careful, because it is a very delicate situation. Use kid gloves.
Yeah, that's definitely something.